Okay.
We already have a motion to open.
Make a motion to open the meeting.
Second.
Not technically gets to vote.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, yes,
Sorry. We appreciate that.
it's too early.
Yes.
This is the earliest I've ever been tonight, but anyway.
So we should just to clarify for David, so it's technically a school committee
Yeah.
subcommittee, and we
Yes.
have a town representation,
Fair
here,
enough.
Tracy. So technically,
Yeah, that's okay.
it's their actions.
Okay, so the next,
Yeah, vote.
oh, did we not vote? Oh. All in favor?
There you go. There you go.
Oh,
The next is oral communication from the public. I don't think we have anyone, right? So then the next is approval of minutes. Can I get a motion?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? All in favor?
thank you for your efficiency.
And all right, then developing building options. You want to take that?
I will take that. Yeah, so. Sorry, voice is getting worse. As have we been discussing, right? We've now met a few times. We took a tour. Thank you for those who were able to come. You enjoyed the roof the most. So the goal here today is a start of a discussion, right? We've been talking through options. We know we are awaiting an answer from the MSBA in December on our third attempt to having submitted a statement of interest. But we know that we don't have an option to wait any longer, whether that be in partnership with the MSBA or directly without the MSBA. So the work that we've committed to is to identify other options. Just so you know, we're recording. So wave to the camera as you're coming in late. Caitlin. So the purpose of today is to start that discussion, and I just want to reiterate, we started this discussion with we need to have a plan B ready if we hear no from the MSBA late November, early December, when I get that call from Vantel. As we've had further discussions, that has morphed into a bit of, well, maybe there are other options. I will not speak on behalf of Neil, but Neil Harrington and I have had a few discussions around the potential of it being potentially more cost beneficial because of the things we wouldn't have to do, that the hoops that the MSBA makes you jump through. So for example, if we partner with the MSBA, we have no choice but to do a complete feasibility study. Currently at 1.6 million in stabilization. It would cost probably at least that to study what our options are before we make a determination. If we weren't partnering with the MSBA, that could be used to hire a designer. We would have to publicly bid it. Unlike the ability to just connect with Kevin and Habib again, that we wouldn't be able to do that to find a designer, but we could jump right into bidding a design and start to design our own project. So the MSBA program provides reimbursement. We would guess we're about a 50% reimbursement district when we compare the three towns. We know that's reimbursement of eligible costs. Pine Grove was a 39-ish, close to $40 million building. The town paid 20, it ended up being about 38. It was about an $18 million, and that was at 52%. So the percentages don't add up perfectly. And so if it was a $200 million building, it's not an easy assumption to just say it would be 100 that the towns would bear. It'd probably be more like 125. So all that being said, the idea here is work with Habib. Obviously, Kevin has completed the assessment previously back now 5 years ago. We know these cost estimates are out of date, but we also want to start the discussion of what do we do? Is there any path in the interim without throwing good money after bad? And also, is there an option to coming up with Plan B? There is a potential that Plan B becomes the preferred methodology as we get towards December. December would be the first time we would have a decision point, knowing whether or not we would be receiving or being welcomed into the MSBA program. So that's the start of the discussion today. I think at this point, I don't know how best to start this. I don't,
So I have a question. If we went into a feasibility study, we would have to study all the, one of them is to put a new building in the field over there. Which I think is very wet. I don't think we're ever gonna be able to put it. How come, is there an easy way to rule that out?
Did the track sink, like start sinking right after we put it in and then it had to be like
Because water's an issue here. To go further out, it's gonna be more of an issue.
yeah, so when we did the Pine Grove project, they call it limited scope repair, LSR. It was this program they made up. It existed for 1 year and then went away. They in essence let us do an entire renovation of the building, couldn't change the footprint, and didn't require us to study all the other options. That isn't an option anymore. So I think there are certain things, right? There are certain things that you'd be able to quickly say, it's not viable, right? We don't have to
That's
do
all I'm looking for.
core studies where they're drilling down 100 feet. We know there's water out there. I don't believe there's a path that we'd be able to say we don't have to at least check those boxes off.
I'm talking, if we don't go with the MSBA. Just so that we can tell people we can't build into the building because there's no
Gotcha.
place to put it on.
Yeah,
And we can't move it, like town wise, if we tried to move it, that's the regional agreement,
I
right?
think I mean, technically we could.
You have to amend it, because it does say
That's
that
what
it says that it's in 5 fields, I believe, or. I don't know,
Says-
it's just Newbury in general in 5 fields.
it might even have the address, but.
No.
Right.
It
doesn't-
says it like it's in
Yeah.
the town now, but.
Yeah,
So even potentially looking at sites in one of the other towns would create, I mean, to do an amendment is what, over 18 months?
Yeah.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
to put it out there on the recording, it's not that these are firm no's, but the timeline then
Gets a lot
Get-
longer.
gets a lot longer for legality reasons.
Yeah.
Does Triton still own that land over there?
you do, yeah, not enough, so I forget the exact sizing. It was gonna originally be, it's on Elm Street, I think it's 145. It was originally the lot that CP Berry looked at when they ended up building Caldwell Farms down the road. Caldwell Farms is obviously a lot bigger, there's a lot of wet.
So I thought,
And so it was most recently discussed with a wireless overlay district that was a fairly popular discussion. So it's certainly not, it could be viable for a use, certainly not a building.
okay.
Yeah.
So no matter how we look at this, it's a water issue.
Continues,
Yeah,
yes,
just
the
to
theme
continue.
is.
The theme is water.
The theme
Yeah.
is water.
The theme is
Yes.
water.
Yeah, and I think, right, I mean, Brian speaking, certainly not a trained architect or designer. If we're gonna be looking at a knockdown rebuild, it would be much more beneficial to be in partnership with the MSBA, right? Because at that point, you're talking, at this point, even Pawtucket was roughly just under $150 million. Every designer I've spoken with said that's at least 250 today, if not more.
Yeah.
They got the COVID deflation, literally could not have timed it any better. So, right, if we're talking that size of a project, then I think it behooves us to be in partnership with the MSBA and have a major portion, even if it's not a full 50. The idea of a plan B is, what could we do with the existing campus, existing shell, kind of more similar to Pine Grove? What could be gutted and redone, keeping the existing cast in place bunker that we have here today.
I think too, the other benefit and flexibility that I see is the MSBA has certain things that they want to see size wise and whatnot. And I think there are places here where we could say, right, it makes sense to leave the gyms as the gyms and never consider that they could be something else to meet the size requirements for science labs, which I know we're under for MSBA purposes, you know, just.
They
just
do,
don't
they
look-
do have an educational program
Yeah.
requirement that
Mhm.
stipulates the square footages of the different parts of the program. You'd be expected to follow.
Yeah, so Pawtucket went from 2 buildings to a combined building. They only have 1 gym, right? So we know right out the gate, their population is slightly higher than ours right now, basically comparable. Their building was certified, I want to say 201,000 square feet. This building is 286. I believe they had some additional space that didn't fit into the educational program, so it became non-reimbursable. So we know right out of the gate, as a best case scenario, 85,000 square feet on this campus would be likely be non-reimbursable because of our student population, our enrollment. So, right back to that point, if we like having two gyms as a revenue source, right, for being able to rent those out, that would be a local decision, and we know right out of the gate, at least one of those would be in partnership with the NSBA. If you look through project budgets and everything, you can literally see what gets reimbursed, what gets non-reimbursed. That's all part of that process.
Would the auditorium be too big? Probably.
At 850, I want 817, something like that. I think there's a slightly higher capacity. The seating is like around 8, it's 817. Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
So there are parts of the building that are a plus and a revenue source, but they would not be reimbursable with the MSBA.
Would very likely, very unlikely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there are creative ways, right? At Pine Grove School, we ended up with the extended learning areas that allowed them to become reimbursable. It's a little more work to make them classrooms than we thought when we designed it that way. But that allowed those spaces to be reimbursable. So there are some creative ways. Generally speaking, the big things, the auditoriums, the gyms, it's a yes or no, qualifies or doesn't qualify. So I think, as the way I've been thinking through this is, had some conversations. How do we start this discussion? I feel like what would be, well, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, but my thought would be, if it makes sense for us to ask the questions that we would like to have answered. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right? So I know one big question is there any value? It's not the right word. Is there any reasonable path for us to spend money to fix problems that would happen outside of a larger project, right? So we took a tour we literally walked around the roof, and these RTUs are now 30 years old, right? You can't keep the insulation on the ductwork. It's very telling. You remember that, yes?
Yeah.
We've had this discussion. We don't believe the roof is going to last another 7 years, right? If an MSBA project is 5 to 7 years, we don't see it lasting 6 to 8 years.
It's time.
It's right.
Yeah.
So then,
Agreed.
so I think the two big questions are there things that we can be doing now that isn't throwing away money? And then B, for me, the big question is, say a project is $250 million. If we're gonna get 50% reimbursement, the towns are gonna spend at least 25. What could we do for $125 million on this campus, or 100? Or we could set 2 target points. And is that something that would be workable, within the scope of this kind of brainstorming contract, to say at 100 million or 150 million, what could we do on this campus that would both remedy all of this, but also provide some kind of re-envisioning of our educational spaces, right? We keep using the obelisk, the flagpole as forget the amount to fix that flagpole. We don't want it. We just want to knock it down, not rebuild the big blue cinder block flagpole. So is that?
Yeah, I mean, so personally for me, in my opinion, we should try to save the middle school, the gyms, and maybe rework like cafeteria and everything in between. But if you did the middle school roof and the gym roof, I think you can do that without throwing money away. As long as you're saving the building. If we're doing a new building, we don't know, unfortunately.
Sorry, visually, this is a struggle for me.
So they're different,
No, I
they're
know they're
separate,
different.
separate roofs, that's why,
Yeah,
and
so
there's no
you're saying-
HVAC on top of the middle school.
Okay, I was wondering what
It's on
made you
top.
say that one was.
Yeah, so when
Okay,
we came out that door, that's where the unit was.
Thank you, that's what I was wondering. No, I was just wondering why he chose
Right.
that one, but it's the HVAC.
Also, the middle school, except for the gaping hole in the ceiling, is in pretty good shape and we probably could save it. But it's getting ruined, by the day.
There is an HVAC unit on top,
On the top of the roof?
Yeah.
But does it just do that area?
just that area.
Small though, right?
Yeah, it's not one of the huge rooftop units, but it's,
So we would have to do that, and the gym is the same deal, right?
it's probably undersized too for that area, and it just doesn't keep up over there, but. Yeah, just that area.
So Kevin, with all of our problems.
Give me that information. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I haven't looked at this equation, it's been some time, right? So, this group might have a stronger sense at this point in time of, what needs to be done based on what you've seen. A roof is something that is easy to focus on, but, for someone like myself who's stepping into the meeting for the first time, what I would like to hear, are what are the goals, objectives, and aspirations? What can we do that extends beyond fixing things?
I would like to keep the water on the outside of the building.
Definitely a
That-
top
Or,
priority.
like, I would like to keep water where water belongs, on the outside or in the pipes in which it is supposed to be flowing through, and I know I have to be specific in this building. So that is my overarching goal, because that is our largest. Every problem we have can be traced back to.
Water infiltration, yeah,
Yeah,
Or
that's from,
see-
and that's pretty,
that's from the parking lot, right?
Like,
The
tennis
entry drive.
courts,
Yeah.
just, we have water,
but
I'd like to
what,
remove it.
what about enrollment? Is enrollment increasing or decreasing?
So we've done studies and we're now at, the key district is 2,200 students. We're likely near the bottom. There's now ebbing and flowing. Elementaries are slightly increasing. So we've seen a bubble come through the high school and middle school that has shrunk. And so that will bump up a little bit. We've had the current elementary kindergarten enrollment in the next year's numbers are a little higher than previous. So there's some ebbing and flowing, but largely stable when we look at the 10-year NASDAQ
Yeah.
numbers. So this campus is currently just under 900, 875. And I see us for this next handful of years in that 825, 850, and then there could be another bubble coming up. But we don't have any indication of any enrollment booms, right? Every district,
Okay.
every community is talking 3A and MBTA housing and all that. Salisbury has a very different housing market than Rowley does, than does Newbury. So will there be ebbs and flows? Yes, but not significant as far as 286. When you say aspirations and dreams.
Yeah.
This campus is very spread out for a population of, call it up to 900, 950
Yeah,
students.
That leads to my next question, which would be, is the building being underutilized
Yeah.
based on population that it has?
Yeah.
And is there some opportunity to consolidate a bit and use the building more efficiently? And maybe there are spaces that just aren't needed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's more of a programming exercise, space planning and programming. It doesn't address fixing leaks. But I think that has to be part of the discussion. This is how does this school gonna function as a learning environment into the future? We know how to fix things. We all know how to fix things, but what value are we gonna add to this exercise that extends beyond fixing things?
I think an interesting question, just from my perspective, having had a kid here recently, is that it seems like some of the spaces are poorly utilized. So there are small groups that are in large spaces simply because there's no other space for them.
Right,
And that's
small spaces.
an appropriate fit. And if you could free up some of those large spaces to put larger groups in, I think then we've talked about, like, could you bring the sixth grade over there, which is a hot button issue. Parents feel very,
Yeah.
they feel very strongly in both directions, but it's an option that
Is it
could
a
be
idea?
considered, but can't be right now, because I don't believe visibly from what I see around the school, there isn't classroom space that can be used to do that right now, because there are other, you go by one and there's 4 kids in it, right? It's a classroom now.
But then I think of the library, I'm gonna use the library because that's the one we're all very accustomed to.
Great.
I love a big library. I think they're great. Do I think our library needs to be the size of like a small, like a home? two-story like McMansion.
Two-story.
No,
Yeah.
but and I'm being honest, and
Yeah.
that's a huge underutilized space when you're talking, whether or not you agree with the sixth grade coming over, when you're talking about the sixth grade coming over and reutilizing spaces, the library is one place where you could redo that and have those smaller spaces brought in or something else, because it doesn't need to be a two-story. And heating it, cooling it, utilizing
You
it.
can't put library books up, you 15 feet in the
Well,
air.
that's, I mean, if you're just sitting in it looking up, the library books can only go so high unless we're gonna do a Beauty and the Beast thing,
Yeah.
which is unsafe.
Yeah.
Well, I think we
So-
talked about that, I'm gonna keep using Nantucket because it's such a beautiful building. They have multiple
You might be
small,
biased.
Yeah,
I might be, well, have you been in it?
No.
no,
Oh, it's just,
It's not a glass.
Matt.
there is some things that I would say, like, everyone hates the cafeteria because it's more like, I don't know what the right style is, like cafe style, where there's like small concessions area where you get the
Okay.
meals and then you're kind of eating everywhere, which is kind of nice, feels more like a kind of a
Andover High does
collegiate.
that.
Yeah, but then the libraries are much smaller spaces, and I want to say there's two of them. Whereas I don't know if you remember the space, it's literally monstrous and it's two-story ceilings. So just way underutilized, not efficient for heating and cooling. So I think it makes sense to focus on the programming. Again, yes, anything we do, there has to be the assumption that we're fixing all of the things that need to be fixed. But in general, right, we know this campus, forget the exact enrollment, but when it was renovated and, came online in 2000, at that point, there were 1,200 kids on this campus, right? High school was, yeah, high school was close to 9 and middle school was over 4. So we're talking 1,400 kids. So bringing the sixth grade over on a pure math number or, calculations, there's plenty of physical space.
Works.
The world is different. The student, the programs, the needs are different than they were 25 years ago, 30 years ago when it was being designed. So a lot has changed, but I do think the focus for us should be about programming. What can we do and what are the needs? And then I think, kind of the theoretical budgeting and designing would be around what we envision.
Yeah.
I would like to see, one of the things I would love to see is just get rid of the cafeteria as it exists. The consolidation of, and I know this is an MSBA thing, they love all the possibility of community use, all those resources pulled together. So you come in the main high school entrance, there's that big open courtyard, gyms to your left, entrance to the right. Enclose, I've said this a million times, enclose that space, make that the dining area, dining commons. You've got the 2 gymnasiums, you've got the auditorium right there, you've got the high school entrance. Let's get rid of the middle school entrance, have the middle school entrance from one common, right? Everything enters there. So that your one point of security access, you then decide to go to the middle school, to the high school, or if a community, right, AAU, these groups that love to come in and use the space. You've got food services right there. You want to do an auditorium presentation right there. And I feel like that it consolidates space. And it also is, from a security perspective, I like how it closes up the campus a little tighter. So that's,
I actually like that. I like ripping down the cafeteria, maybe redesigning the library and all that space in the middle.
Yeah.
The courtyards, I mean, they're great, but they're.
Do they even get utilized?
quite a bit right now. I mean, I think
Well,
they're
the nice one.
more than they used to be in the past. I mean, there's picnic tables out there, there's a basketball hoop, and the one outside the cafeteria. The one outside, right across from the main entrance, gets used quite a bit. But not necessary. But I think if we can trade for, if the result is we need to give up some courtyard space to be able to say, we're taking down square footage that doesn't need to be modeled, refurbished, because it's allowing us to put money towards classrooms that are, right, 22nd century. Let's be done with the 21st century, right? Future thinking, modern instructional spaces. I don't really want to be done.
Thank you for clarifying.
I mean, I think that the courtyards could definitely be utilized for something. I would caution, about selecting the type of space because we would lose a lot of daylight. And it's important that, you know, if this is a space that's regularly occupied, or a classroom space, we want to make sure that we can access that daylight. By filling in those courtyards, you know, we have a very large space that we would have no access to daylight at all. So, if we were to consider something like that, you know, we would want to look at a space that doesn't require natural light, you know, like a gymnasium. I'm not suggesting that it is a gymnasium. I know it's very tempting to say that there's a lot of wasted space in those courtyards, but there was a reason, I think, the way it was laid out that way, and it's because the classrooms were on the perimeter typically. And that's where they get different.
What's the average size classroom in this building?
Like a typical classroom is a
Like just
30 by
random-
30, 900 square feet. Is that still like, I feel like that's the calculation MSBA uses. They vary, but that's fairly typical. Yes,
So our classrooms aren't like an odd,
our traditional
like our
classrooms,
current ones are not like these odd ones. They're like a
They're-
standard.
yeah, like the standard classrooms,
Eighth and
yeah, are maybe, some are a little large. Our science lab space is all undersized,
Very in some places.
very undersized.
And do they it's been a while since I've wandered, like, I've wandered the outside, seen that, but haven't wandered the inside. The
Just let
outside.
someone know if you're wondering, just saying.
Yeah, I haven't done it recently, but that's a different field trip. Are the science rooms abutting each other? Or does it go like science lab, regular, like, do you see what I'm saying?
Yes,
Are
they
they
are
laid out efficiently or not?
relatively, yeah, they're not really. When you walk in, they don't scream science lab, right? I mean, like if
Okay.
you go into a newly designed school.
Well, I didn't know if you could, I don't wanna say this, but to utilize a science bring it up to where we want it to be, I didn't know if they alternated. Some of them alternate to allow like, ventilation and all this stuff. If you could just move a wall, but like move a wall to create as like an easier fix, and then you have that smaller space. Kind of, but I wasn't sure what the layout was upstairs.
Yeah.
I think it depends too whether you're talking middle school or high school.
Yeah, so middle school, right, as you're entering that whole front wing, the 3-story wing, was all built in 2000, so that's brand new.
So that's ish.
Needs as much work as some of the 1967 construction, but, yeah, so those spaces are a lot more standard and symmetrical, right, design, workspace in the middle, much more typical, newer designing. And then a lot of this, not a lot,
But they're spread out.
but they're spread out, yeah, and then there's several spaces in the high school where they have nicknames, like spaces, weird spaces that used to be a lecture hall that gets cut off and you go in there, and it's now a storage room. You can still see there's like half of a seating from a lecture hall, just weird spaces.
Oh, I remember,
that could
that's
be-
over there, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember that.
that kids find a
Is
way
that what
of,
we're talking?
find a way into. So
They
like,
get
just,
everywhere.
can we just fill those with concrete, or is there anything? So, right, so right, the important point is this building, and part of the reason why those spaces exist, it was Flansburgh before, was this building is cast in place construction, so this building was literally poured, not built. So I think a lot of those spaces are the result of, you can't remove big concrete sections because it's
It's
structural.
very hard to reconfigure.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's the.
So that is right on
There's the crux of the
Yeah.
problem. You
There's-
can't reconfigure to a lot.
There's
So when
far
we
less
talk about it-
flexibility in the original portion of the building because of concrete construction.
So when we talk about how we're gonna utilize space, that's a huge barrier.
I wouldn't think about it as a barrier, but it's a restriction.
He does this for a living, right?
Anything is possible, but it would be more.
The words
more
anything,
costly.
when you just said anything is, I'm aware anything's possible, but I like to keep my budget.
Where is that weird space you're talking?
Well,
Guess we're taking a field trip because Matt needs to.
No, I'm looking at the,
It's in the inside square, it would be the corner that's closest to the outbuilding, but on the inside of the.
Second floor.
Well, we used to go first floor to second floor, so I don't. I
It's the
remember
second,
reasons.
it's the top.
The top that's
Still
left.
there.
Okay.
Way back, it used to be used as a study hall.
I had study hall
I remember.
You'll never leave.
So is it above the music?
I was like,
No,
look for the front door,
science,
just
math.
go at the front.
Yes, that
It's the wing that's over by the tennis courts.
So
Oh, okay.
restricted, I love that term.
95.
Restricted also means more.
The year
months
that
than
Brian
variable.
started student teaching.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, we've talked about this before.
Wait, what?
I graduated from here the year that Brian started student teaching here.
I don't know what that says about the whole situation.
She's younger.
I feel like,
Not by much.
If
That's
the,
true.
well, that's why I
I
was like.
appreciate
really-
Matt always having my back. I'm just gonna say. Just saying.
Excuse me. I said I didn't know which way to go with that.
Yeah.
That's it.
So, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but is there a way that you could give us like a schematic, like an idea of what you think?
So I've learned the word schematic is very technical, isn't
Yep.
A napkin drawing?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that we're at that place yet.
What decisions do we have to make to get to a napkin drawing so that we all are in the same spot?
I mean, I think this discussion could go in many different directions. We just need to find focus.
I wish
I
you
think
luck in this group.
My focus is getting a building that works for the current program and fixing all our problems,
I
the
would
most
caution
cost-effective way.
one caveat, because there are decisions to go that route. I would almost caution it if we're 5-ish years out. What's the programming that we're hoping to have or that will come up? Because I mean, when we think of even like, this is going down a weird road, but even if we think of our special education population and that shifting and changing and kind of not being forced, but choosing to move things in-house, like that's gonna require that those programs that the programs that start in the elementary school, they do need to move up. So I think that there's gonna be a shift.
Yeah.
When we come here, and that's just one thing, should talk about 5+ years, 6th grade moving, in, whether or not that's feasible, whether or not it gets voted, whether or not it's a good idea, just those things. So I would caution. I almost wanna look almost like conservatively 8 years and to see like what that would look like in this building. Only because I'm nervous.
Well, yeah, and I think we need what, 50 years, right?
Well, for the MSBA.
So the MSBA requires
But
50 years.
Whether we go with the MSBA or not, we
Alright.
want to make a.
Well, we're
Yeah.
saying it for the taxpayers, yes.
Yeah, Well, that's why I like
Regardless,
any
there's still
changes.
good guidelines to use, whether
Oh,
they're
definitely.
funding you.
Yeah.
And we do use them. But, I'm gonna make a suggestion. So there's an exercise that, we do called the space needs analysis. And, the first part is a graphic representation of the school and its current program. We apply, we have plans of the building, right? We take a plan and we assign a color to each space based on the use of that space. It's a classroom, it could be a sped room, it could be a resource room, it's a gymnasium, whatever it is. And then we apply the MSBA
Space next
recommended
summary.
space standards. And we do some calculations and you can apply the program that you would like to see based on like whatever time scale we're looking at, 5, 10. And then we calculate and then we see, do we have enough space or do we have, do we have more space than we need? Do we have excess capacity? Do we need more capacity? I didn't bring one with me today, but I have an example of one that we did recently for Dudley Charlton Regional. And there's 7 schools in that district, so it would be quite a bit bigger than what we might do here. But I would suggest sharing that with this group and you can take a look at it as an example of something that we could do to try to arrive at some direction for programming the building. I think it could be a useful tool. And that could be reviewed by this group and we can decide whether or not it's something that you might want to try to do.
Kevin, what did you refer that as?
It's called the space needs analysis.
Space needs analysis.
Yep.
So from that, we would then be able to identify. I feel like the focus needs to be on what we can do if we're not accepted to the MSBA, right? It may become, again, it may be a plan B that becomes a plan A because it may become more desirable than MSBA. But I think the concept of a full, right, knockdown rebuild possibility would be so financially impacting that would have to be part of the MSBA versus what can we do to meet the needs, right? Starting with that, the space analysis and then moving towards kind of theoretical plans and modeling
Yeah, I
what
mean,
those costs would be.
I think from my perspective, it makes more sense to address the educational program and the future needs of the school. That should be the priority.
Mhm.
And then maybe we can do some high-level cost estimating to determine, you know, what those renovations might cost. And then we decide how, you know, how much of the total budget we can apply to those renovations and fixing all the things that need to be addressed, all our high priority items, our roof, leaking windows, you know, whatever we decide that is. Because I think it's more than just a technical exercise of saying roof leaks, we need to fix the roof. We know that.
Yeah.
What's the mission?
So I personally see three things that I would love to have come out of this. One is, you know, anything we do is going to be a minimum, I'm guessing, 3 to 5 years, which plan A, plan B, plan C, doesn't matter what it actually looks like. What isn't gonna make it? And what's the cost on that? Can we get a cost estimate on that? Because I think that's, no matter which way we go, right? Hopefully it gets folded into a final project, but there's no guarantee, and I think we need to know what that looks like, what things are not gonna make it. I like the needs analysis. I am very worried about political climates in our towns and in getting something passed, right? And the state of the school today and what it's doing to both student morale and staff morale. And I think there may need to be a middle option that looks at some of the space needs, but mostly looks at what does it take to at least get a sealed building where we don't have parents saying to us, like, some of them are fine, like the classrooms, they're older,
Yeah.
they're fine with that. The problem that they have is their kids walking through puddles in the
Yeah.
hallway, right? That's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
And they're worried about mold, they're worried about safety issues, they're worried
Absolutely.
about all of those. I think there may need to be a middle ground assessed that simply says, how do we sort of not do a total overhaul that meets a space needs analysis, but gets us to safety, and does what could reasonably be done, maybe not looking at.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm suggesting that we consider that there's room to do both of those things.
And I, as hearing you say that, I think we need to do the program analysis to make sure we're making good decisions about the needs, right? Because we might say if we jump into, I agree with you,
Yeah.
right? I'm walking through the puddles myself.
Yeah.
It's easy to want to jump right to the solution, but right, the central office being right here may not be the most efficient place. Right, maybe we swap with the outbuilding, right? And there's like all these other things that we could say, oh my gosh, it'd be for low cost, just swapping spaces would be a cost benefit.
Yeah.
And it may, I mean, either way, it's right, none of these solutions are happening before December, right? That's just not in the cards. So I think it allows us to have a much more informed decision about the point you're making, for sure.
So moving them in tandem. So the space needs analysis along with what's not gonna last at the same time.
Yeah, but then I think we need to make sure
And then-
that what's not gonna last isn't something that we're gonna be knocking.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so
Right.
like, I'm gonna use the library again, say we decide, like, we're not touching the library,
Yeah.
anymore. We're moving all the books.
Yeah.
This becomes the library, because we're sitting in here and that's where my brain is. And
We
so
go buy a
now,
Tub of Flex Seal.
yeah, and now nothing is in the library, no money's going into that, mine is keeping it like safe and sealed off, although the kids. But you know. No, but I kind of see the value in that, like it's saying like, okay, if we do the space needs analysis and we say. We can shut the library down, still have a quality library into central office, they can still hold classes in the library, books are safe, everyone's great. The staff moves to the tennis court and everybody's happy. Then that knocks off the list of things and that's not gonna make it that we just move away from. I guess my caution would be how that gets presented. And very carefully, like, no, we're not putting space analysis over fixing those. So I agree that we have to be really careful because it could look like we're skipping to the pretty part of the project and not.
Well, and I'll voice my concern, which is if the space needs analysis comes through and it looks like it's a $300,000 project. And the only option then is looking like, do we partner with the MSBA?
Then
We could be waiting for the MSBA for another 6 years.
The space needs doesn't drive an overall right? The space needs identifies
No.
the needs,
Mhm.
not the solution, right? The
But the
300 million is
end,
this.
Right. the goal
But
is
so
to
once
meet
the space
those.
needs, we then, we've got the MSBA would require us to do anyway. But it then drives the next decisions, whether it's, oh, look, the space is all working, we're just gonna renovate and fix everything. I don't think that's the answer, but if that's one outcome, that drives the next decision.
You mentioned, space, special education. So
because that population is growing, I mean, we're looking.
And changing.
So
And
that-
changing, so that's why I
18 to
wanna,
22 program.
I wanna be really cautious of
that's
that.
an example, I think, of what you would get out of doing the space needs exercise. Is if we could project, the need for special education based on what's happening in your community, what you're seeing. We can do that analysis and we can plan for those spaces and we may conclude that. Hey, we don't have enough room for this. We have to find some rooms for sped. It's not a heavy lift to do this.
Yeah, timing wise.
It's something I think we could probably do under our existing, agreement.
Okay.
I can look into it and estimate, how many hours I think we might want to put into that.
Okay.
And then we can discuss, doing it under this, this exercise that we're doing here.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I'll send exam, should I send it to you?
Yeah. and then-
I'll send you an example of one that we've done recently, so you can see what it's like.
And did you say this is also a requirement for the MSBA, so? Is this like a checkbox for the MSBA? A space needs analysis, or is this a separate, like, will we have to do something?
Probably have to go and redo it.
I did just say that, yeah.
No, it was one of my questions, like, are we doing something and then we're gonna have to redo it, and so financially, I just wanna make, like, I wanna know that.
Yeah.
It's not,
Good question.
not a yes or a no, just
Yeah.
like a fact to know up front.
They might need to be done. If it doesn't align with their program.
Okay,
I think part of it too depends on, like, could you make it align with their program?
No, that's-
Now, possibly, but if you
Well-
don't get accepted, you
Then you
know,
have to
if
go
the
out.
answer is it's an MSBA project, right? And you keep applying.
well, no, so I'm saying like, yeah, if we don't make it in this time, we're obviously gonna have to redo it because the next thing would be a few years out.
The MSBA space guidelines are what we use to prepare this. But, if you reach the conclusion that the MSBA, standard gymnasium size is too small because we have a robust athletic program here and we need more, that could be a deviation that, makes sense for the district that may not make sense for the MSBA.
So the space study would allow us to then create some options. I mean, I feel like for me, what I want to have by December, when we hear from the MSBA, is an alternative path. Right, and then again, that alternative path may become the preferred path by the time, even if we hear yes from the MSBA, right? If we realize for, what we would assume to be 50% of a total project, we can meet all the needs in December we jump and we're ready to roll. We're not going into feasibility and studying all that, and we gain, a couple of years back as far as your concerns about timing. So I think that's the question is there scope, do you feel like there's scope within the contract, the 30,000 contract that we signed, not to exceed 29,999, to do a study as well as some, not schematics, but what did you call them?
Conceptual.
Conceptual.
Yeah.
Like some conceptual ideas and obviously not designs, but some conceptual thoughts about moving parts and relocating and some cost estimates?
I think it's possible. I think it would have to be pretty high level, and I would probably treat it more as something that we would call a test fit. So
Say more about that.
a test fit is when we identified a program and we know the area for each part of the program, how many square feet we need for something. And we decide that we want to work within the existing footprint of the building that we have. We can apply that program to this layout. But a test fit, all it does is it confirms that the pieces fit. Right? Do the pieces fit? Do we have enough space to fit this program? But we don't actually design anything. We don't lay anything out. That's a much bigger effort, right? So you might see a bunch of colored squares on a drawing to demonstrate that, yes, this program fits here. Then the next step is to actually start, designing and laying something. That's what I would imagine you could do. Something like that, test fit.
That's a new one.
That's, I mean,
Heard
that's,
it before.
that's one of the biggest issues, right, is wondering, does it fit in the footprint that is poured here? And if it does, can you configure it so that parts of the building that may be in the most disrepair don't have to be repaired? Like utilize, like in the saying, and I keep using library because it's just a room you'll know, but if that's the room in the most, it's not, with the most disrepair, if we can fit everything we need to without utilizing that space, then that we know there's a cost savings there. Because now we're not worried about bringing that up and fixing it
That
unless
could
it's a
be,
choice.
that could be a conclusion. I mean, we may find that we have an excess of space, right? We have more space than we really need. So is there an opportunity to take certain areas offline if we can consolidate the program in other areas? With some, more efficiently with some renovations.
So does that test fit look at structural implications, i.e., right, the missing, right, the old lecture hall that is not actually used?
Yeah, it's really not the intent of the exercise.
Okay.
That happens at the next level. All the test fit really does is puts the program into the footprint and determines whether or not it fits. But there is some thought that's put into how it's, how the program is applied, right? It's not random.
So could we ask for certain parts of the building to no longer exist for that program? Could we say like,
Yeah.
when you put in the program, say like, hey, this actually just fell off the building and no longer exists, and then the program,
I can't see why not.
cause I think that would be to answer like the questions about the high needs, if maybe we look at what the high needs areas are and if they're. But like if they're outside and could be easily cornered off or not used,
Mhm.
could we block them off in the program and then the program says this fits without the use of these higher
That's
needs
a
area?
possible outcome, doing that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Part of it though, is in my mind, it's gotta be done in a phased approach, because I don't see it getting all done in one off season. So I'm gonna have
Oh,
to
no.
use some of that dead space though in the interim. As you're fixing and getting other parts up
Yep.
to, up to speed.
Well, not actually saying we're gonna like
No, I know,
Right,
topple
but-
it in,
No, I know.
You know,
but
so
in real time.
some
if you're
areas are,
doing one area, then you
Yeah,
need to take advantage of having that space.
summer is our
Sure.
construction season, for schools.
Oh, yeah.
Summer is our construction season, it's when we do all of the work. There's a limited amount of work we can do.
And everyone needs it done at the same time.
Yeah, swing space becomes creative. Right?
Yeah,
I just asked
Work
Brian,
that
did
fine.
you not like those trailers that everyone has to utilize? You're trying to avoid those rentals?
So I think it's important though that we also get some costing, again, high level So that we can say, I think that by December, we need to be able to say, this is a reasonable, right? So for if, and again, that concept of, if we assume a certain amount for a full MSBA core renovation, whether it's knock down, rebuild, or knock certain sections, renovate. And we assume that 50%, there has to be some, I think that's the decision maker, really. I feel like if a renovation is almost as costly, right? If the right renovation is almost as costly as going fully with the MSBA, then it would be silly not to figure out stopgaps to get us into the program and fix the issues that.
Right, try again.
Yeah.
I get it.
So I think that's if we can do the programming analysis and come up with that test fit and some potential high level cost estimates of what a renovation fix, whatever would be.
Mhm.
I feel like that would be, that would make me feel like we're at a point where we could make a decision. And again, not saying, yes, here's the design, we move into construction phase, but the decision to say, let's apply again, or let's reallocate the stabilization funds to bid out a designer and jump into that space.
That makes sense to me.
So you'd be able to tell us how much it's gonna cost to do the space needs analysis?
No,
Roughly.
I'm suggesting that we could do that under the agreement.
Oh.
we have currently.
Okay, but how much of it is it gonna eat up? We're gonna be able to get to what Brian.
Yeah,
was-
I gotta look into it
Okay.
and check to see what the effort looks like.
I think that would be the question. Can we get the space needs analysis with the test fit and then some possible
Some cost. estimate.
costing of the remedy?
That would be the goal.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
In 29 and 99. Just saying, I'm a stickler for laws.
I know.
That's just because of the design selection. law.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering why the numbers. match.
Sometimes I wonder if Brian just makes them up, because he likes to say 29, 99, 99.
He doesn't intentionally make it either. I am older now, so it's like, things seem real in my mind. So other,
On camera.
I feel like that's next, that isn't here.
Yeah.
So that feels like a kind of a takeaway for Kevin to, that'd be a next step with this group. Do you want to bring this group back to review that as a concept, or, I mean, I don't know if it makes sense to have your kind of time to be here for that, using hours to be here for that, or if it's.
No,
something
I think we
that-
can get together privately, not privately, but we can get
Yeah,
together
separately.
without, separately.
To talk through that,
Yeah,
even if,
definitely.
even if we have you jump on a Zoom meeting, so
We
you're
could
not
do-
driving all the way out.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
could do a virtual meeting and then.
And is there anything that we can do as part of that space needs analysis?
Oh, most definitely.
To
Yeah,
try to
no,
take
you'll
off
be-
some of the,
You'll be involved.
no, is there stuff we can do to take off some of the burden?
I think.
Do you do it off of the plans? Do you have scale drawings or not?
He's got,
We do,
Okay.
yeah, I think we would probably use, what we had produced for this.
like you scanned, you digitized like a full.
We have everything
as-built.
digitally. But, this is what was produced for the facilities condition assessment, and this is more than for us to use, so I think, that part of the effort is done. Right now, we just need to, do the space needs analysis based on the drawings that we already have.
Does any part of that require what the teachers and staff envision? Or is it just rough?
That's really, that's really up to you, as to the level of participation that you think that you
I mean, it
need.
goes down a rabbit hole, obviously. But
Yes.
It's something that you may want to limit.
Because if it
At this step,
presupposes
yeah.
that we're further along
I was
than
just
we
asking
are.
that later in the
I
process.
see like a lot later in the process. Right now, it's just trying to come up with a plan B that's serviceable by December.
Yeah, so there will definitely be information, right, that Kevin, I'm assuming you will need from me, John and I, Brian, like principals will do work to get you.
I don't think it's a big effort for you. I think, part of the process is automatic. right? So, we take the
Enrollments.
and we take the enrollments, we apply them. I think the area where you would have input is, spaces that we feel that the school needs that may go above and beyond, what I might see in the MSBA program. And a space is actually pretty common, because that's driven in large part by, the community that you're serving and, what the needs are, because those are gonna vary across the Commonwealth.
Like we run our own 18 to 22-year-old program. Very successfully here on campus, right? So
Yeah.
that space is right for those kids. It's most cost
So
effective.
We
So
want
that
to
needs
put
to be
that
here.
in space.
Yep.
That's an example. So that's what I think that you should start thinking about.
We have. a program too.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's gonna need us, they're not,
Not currently,
no, but that's,
Yeah. moving up.
that's moving its way along.
The autism one would be the next
The
one.
autism program.
That's all the way up.
Any space that you think
And it's
that you
growing.
need,
Yeah.
and don't think about just today. Let's talk about, 3 to 5 years and beyond.
So that brings an elephant in the room. Do we look at the sixth grade or not?
Can we
I was
do
gonna ask you
two?
that, aren't we like the only district that does not have sixth grade at the middle high school, like Amesbury does, Newburyport does?
Maybe around here, but it's not uncommon. About I've seen where, like in the elementary school, when they rebuild, they have a 5 through 8, like offshoots, they do it the opposite way that it's
Yeah.
done here, where they put like a junior high.
Yeah, ours is a junior high.
Yeah,
So it's happened where junior highs used to exist. So Pentucket did not change that. The way they built the space, they have the ability to change that around if they wanted to, because, but they aren't bringing the sixth grade up. And so it remains Pentucket and Triton are the two with, actually.
they moved it.
Yeah, yeah, so
Which
Yes, which is traditional elementary pre-K to 4,
Yeah.
5 to 8 middle. 9
And
to
that's the
12
other shift,
secondary.
some districts have 5 to 8.
Yeah,
Yeah. I guess Brian's preference is, I feel like that takes the scope larger than the capacity of this initial exercise. I would rather, I'm a big fan of it, by the way. Huge fan for the camera. Of bringing sixth grade here. I think for the future, that would be something when we get to design, right? So when we say, just to say this clearly, when we get to December, we're gonna have all right, here's another potential path. We're not gonna be able to say it's exactly this cost, here's the design, right? It's yes, it makes sense for us to do this on our own, right? That's the question we have to answer. And then we say, okay, along with that, does it make sense to just say, let's bring the sixth grade over, because in the course of that, we free up space at the elementaries, it's efficient, we have the space. But I'd rather not waste dollars within this contract answering that question.
I don't think it's a driver either. I think it's right, if you end up with that space, then you can consider it,
Yeah.
right? But if you're not
Yeah.
ending up with that space, then.
We would.
It's an added cost.
Yeah, you're not.
I think that's a conclusion that you might reach at the end of the process, but I think we've got to do the exercise, look at the data and determine whether or not, that can be. But I think it would be premature to say that.
I think it's important to keep it like
A lot.
close.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
close to the thought process
Yes.
as we move forward, but because I also am a big fan of moving sixth grade, if we can, if financially it works out, I don't wanna like ruin a budget to make a move that doesn't need to be made, but if it were within the budget and something useful, yes, please bring them forward.
Right, another one to put on the table, and that again, I don't think is part of the discussion here, but it's been a discussion for years, is we now have a campus with currently 850 students. Will be 850, 845 next year, still two distinctly separate functioning schools. And we've had that discussion, I'm not speaking out of school, Al, Patrick and I have spoken about that, right? That's Pentucket moved to a single head of school principal and then separate functioning schools, but still kind of a consolidated administration. So that has to be a discussion as we move into the actual design, right? Not here, because it doesn't change with student enrollments and needs and all that. But if we got to the point where we're consolidating a single administrative suite, that changes things on the design. Is it a single entry point? Is it separate entry points? But again, I think that's in the weeds when we're talking about, do we bring sixth grade here or do we,
We had that at one point. I don't know if you were here then.
let's say, teacher at my group,
It was one principal and then,
that they run
and Dave Riley, no, it was Mike Ward.
with my board?
And then Dave Riley was the assistant principal, and then Hal Ryder was the assistant principal at the junior high school.
Yeah.
They did that for them.
Yeah, right, there's an argument to say if we can't fit sixth grade, then do we have a 7 through 12 secondary school with an upper school and a lower school? So you have a 7 through 9 with a kind of a, to high school, Attleboro was big, we had houses, right? So is there a 7 through 9 house and a 10 through 12 house? So there's lots of things we can look at. But I love the idea of not just assuming that 7, 8 is the middle school and 9 through 12 is the middle school. That needs to be part of the design phase. And then it becomes a space and money issue. So next steps. You'll share that information with me. I'll get that together with the group. That could be a meeting we have without Kevin, or if it makes sense to have him here. A sense of putting that together.
Yeah, I'll send that a sample over.
Okay.
And you can share it, and then I'll look at, what I think the effort is for like number of hours that it'll take to produce one.
Okay, great. Then we can talk through with that.
Mhm.
We'll, a study, some costing, some rough back of the envelope space planning.
Mhm.
Would that fit within the existing contract? And then we can get together to talk through the inputs into that. Okay. Other thoughts for today? Questions? Requests? Just
I
general
wouldn't ask for
opinions?
requests.
Yeah.
Leave that one alone.
Specifically related to the matter on the table.
That one's a wrap.
Hearing of grievances.
No, I think that's a good step.
Our goal will be anytime Kevin's involved to make the most efficient use of the time, so that we're maximizing that contract and doing the work and not. Other stuff.
So it's a pleasure to be here. It's to be really an exercise.
Have you done this in any other districts?
No.
I know
this
it's
is- this is-
becoming more the norm, like Andover, I think, is looking at.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Nando's
You mean-
in there.
Thinking
Plan
aside
B,
from
plan
MSBA,
B, yeah.
yeah.
No, I don't know. I can't think of an example of something that we've done that's quite like this exercise. So I think we're creating something here. And I think I love it. I think it's exciting. And I'm hoping that, that we get a great outcome for the district. So,
We like to be trendsetters.
Just kidding. Always.
Right, at the end of the day, we can say one more time, the MSBA process is a state process. Similar to MCPPO certification, when the Inspector General will sit there and say, this is Greg Sullivan, he's gone, right? This isn't about the best cost, this is about fairness. So at the end of the day, the process through the MSBA it's much better than it ever was. It's a great process, but it's not the most timely and it's not the most cost effective. It requires us to spend lots of dollars studying things that if we already have the answer to, let's not waste money.
So like 5% in year-over-year inflation, our cost.
Good question.
construction?
Yeah, roughly. I mean,
Yeah,
it's gone,
it
ebbed and flowed.
looks like it's right now it's settling around 5. I mean, historically, it's been going like 4. During the pandemic, it was over 6. And I think that was one of the reasons why when we redid this study, facilities condition assessment, so much time had gone by between the time that we prepared the report and then the pandemic hit, months after we submitted it, that we had to redo all the costs just because there was so much escalation. We had to actually send this over to the professional cost estimator and they updated things. So,
But at some point, what the MSBA is gonna give us is going to, and inflation are gonna cross.
Yeah.
It might be sooner than later.
but if you look at, and I think you could even get this information off the MSBA's website of core projects that are in process, you can look at the estimated costs and the cost per square foot. And last time I looked at it, it was between 600 and $1,000 a square foot. Incredible.
Yeah, so that another test is when contractors know that the state isn't kicking in half and it's easy money, are they in any way more competitive? That's a Brian question.
I'm
And
gonna
those are,
answer you say, no, I don't think
Yeah,
it matters.
and those are just construction costs. I mean, your total project budget is gonna be more than that, right?
The
Because
burden,
you're
yeah.
paying the designers and the engineers and the whole team that you need to prepare the study. And the bidding documents, and it's a big.
Yeah, one thing we haven't mentioned, when we get to the point of rough estimates for costs by December is site work. You know, not making assumptions of changes, but the existing, even to just fix what exists now as far as entry and access and parking lots and redoing, because I mean, there's undermining of water mains and damage that it's just that would have to be part of the assumption. Rough.
Am I remembering correctly that the MSBA gave us a set list of certain firms that they already had approved for some of the major contracts? Like, didn't they have
Through
a
accelerated
list of,
repair.
yeah, oh, through.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't pre-bid anything.
No, no, no,
Nothing- Nothing
I'm saying-
pre-approved through core.
like when we went out for a construction management firm, I thought there was a list of pre-approved construction management firms that didn't include all of the, you know, CM,
Pre-qualified,
right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, there is a list, I believe it's maintained by the MSBA. They have their own designer selection board.
Yeah.
And the list for core projects is not very long, if I recall.
Okay, so that was my other question is, does this open us up potentially to using other firms that are not? Right, it doesn't box us in as much if we had a.
Now, a larger effort would require you to issue an RFQ.
Yeah.
Request qualifications and firms would submit. And you
You
can
get the
based on.
books from them to go through, get that rating scoring criteria to go through as much.
Yeah, that's all correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Performance.
And that would be, right, we would hire an OPM. Right, so the first,
Yeah, I mean, anything I think is $1.5 million or more requires.
yeah, so I mean, when we get to building project, that's,
You're gonna have.
we have an OPM who's walking us through that process, who is costing us $1 million to $2 million in and of itself.
Yep.
So,
I'm just thinking it opens the field a little bit more,
Potentially,
possibly
yeah.
doing a non-MSBA project over an MSBA project.
yeah, so other, it's, I forget it's not say OSHA, but there's a quality process to be part of the MSBA board. If someone bid, they could become qualified, but there is a list of pre-approved that simplifies, but yeah, it could open up a. Suffolk is gonna come in here, but we could open up other contractors who decide they wanna say, yeah, I don't wanna jump through the MSBA hoops, but I'm totally okay with.
Yeah, it could
my own
definitely open
laws.
some doors
Yeah.
for some more competitive pricing and even selection of designers.
Start tomorrow. So just one more time to say this out loud, right? This doesn't, there is no path here that has been put on the table. To your point, Narissa, that quickly solves problems, right? Because there isn't really, we don't know. So the first is we have to answer questions about what the potential fixes are before we can say. Right, I feel like we're gonna land with, it makes sense to keep 2 gyms. Right, to renovate those 2 spaces, it's kind of fit and finish inside and a new roof and mechanicals. And we've got 2 incredible spaces that have rental capacity, right? So
It's
if,
not just rental capacity, it's the ability to serve our communities better,
Well,
right?
yeah,
Like, that's also has to be taken into account, right? Raleigh is not gonna build its own gym to service, right?
Yeah.
There's no rec program there that's gonna be able to do that. So I think we also have to take, you know, Raleigh and Newbury and Salisbury and the community needs that we are serving within this building as part of our, it may not be, end up being an overriding driver, but we have to take it as part of our consideration.
We should point out, the community utilizes that space
Heavily.
like heavily.
Yeah.
And so, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
Being so spread out, we want to have the spaces that all three of our communities want to be at, because that is kind of the goal when you think of like
Yeah.
being Triton. That
Being
you wanna
regional.
have those- Yeah,
Yeah,
you
it's
want to
regional.
have that place where every community feels safe, welcome, like this is their space. So I would say getting rid of a gym would not lend to our goal of bringing our communities together.
That was a good correction, thank you. Right, I go straight to the defending it from a, the cost benefit analysis, but point to the point now, right? John, working with Joel, our current AD, are actively working towards more more partnerships, better partnerships with our youth sports as our feeder programs and getting them here, whether it be the stadium, the gyms or whatever. So yes, that has to be the first and foremost. So if that ends up being early on, we say, yes, at all costs, we're gonna protect that. Then we could say, all right, then to prevent any further damage inside, maybe we replace the roof now. Right? And that becomes part of the process. Another piece that will have to be decided by December is there value in separate projects, which all will require bonding? Versus saying we're moving towards a renovation, not with the MSBA, we're able to do this much quicker. Much more quickly, and therefore, that's the path, but it's gonna be one big project, one big push, one big town meeting where we have to get the approval, so. Okay,
So I think we're good, right? Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
All in favor?
There's no next scheduled meeting.
so we don't have a next scheduled meeting, is there, do you want to schedule one, or does it make
I
sense?
think December's coming pretty fast, so.
Okay. How,
Fortunately, how long do you need?
I mean, I can get you the information that I mentioned, maybe by the end of the day,
okay,
and I think.
How long will it take to do the analysis?
The analysis might take a couple of weeks.
oh, okay, so we're in the summer,
Yeah, so maybe 3 weeks might be a good time to get back together.
you can say end of June. Right, I guess that's 3-4 weeks.
I mean, I'm with whoever said December is coming quickly, right?
Yeah.
I think we need to squish it as tightly as we reasonably can, so that, right, we're doing our due diligence and not trying to squish things at the end just to have an answer at that point. But I don't wanna squish Kevin either.
Let me- Friday is usually a good day for me. The week of the 17th, I would not be available. I'm actually moving. We close that week. So what about the 14th? I could jump on a, Zoom.
Of June?
Yeah.
You think you can have it,
So
you just
that's
want
2 weeks from now.
Yeah,
That's a follow-up discussion, not to
Oh.
have finished. Right, would you have
Well-
a finished?
no, I'm sorry, we wouldn't be able to do it that quickly, but I think really all that we need to get started is I'd like you to review the sample space needs assessment and just, give us a thumbs up and we can just start doing it.
so now that we adjourn, but do we want to have a quick, without you, just a quick meeting to go over that and
Yeah.
say yay or nay, or do you want to make the decision or?
I'm happy with whatever you want. I have no issue with jumping on a Zoom if you want to do that. Like
Is
next
it
week,
June? I'll just have to be on Zoom for June.
we would do that via Zoom, definitely.
Okay.
Because we could do it next Friday, right? We could do it. No, we can't do it next Friday.
No, I'm at the school all day, I think, right? Isn't that fifth day? My son was right next to you, Brian. I was afraid that he wasn't gonna get accepted to preschool if he talked too much. Yeah.
I was watching him.
I was like-
back and forth.
I got him in the hall so
Stay
fast.
still.
Well, no,
I love
that's Anthony. He's in first grade, but my
Okay.
3-year-old, I was like,
Sitting in the-
"Don't talk, please don't talk."
it.
Brought him out in the hall. Nothing, no one was out there.
Maybe if there's a time next week that works, we can just do a check-in and give you an
Yeah, I
opportunity.
mean, does that,
Ask questions
for
on
you,
that.
does that make sense just to jump on before we proceed?
I'm just saying flat out, and if you don't need me,
Could we do it, we could do it later in the day too?
yeah, I'll just, no matter when it is,
Yeah.
I'll have to.
Yeah.
I'll
Okay.
need to be on Zoom.
We'll definitely do it
Just
via
throw
Zoom.
that.
Well, do you want to just do it the 14th then? Is that better?
Well, I think we can,
Or did you
I
say
think we can move
you're not
faster
really-
than that. I think we just need some buy-in that, the space needs assessment is what we think it is. Yes, we want Habib and Associates to do it.
Okay,
And I think that's a decision that you can arrive at.
Yeah,
And we'll have that information. I mean, we could post for Tuesday afternoon, right? Right now it's Friday, so we can't post for a Monday or Tuesday morning, but we could post for
Oh, do you have to follow the public meeting?
yeah, so
Okay.
the school committee members are technically a subcommittee.
Okay.
So if we could post for a Tuesday afternoon.
2 to 3, but I'm free either side.
You have a 2 to 3?
Yeah, I've done the meetings from 2 to 3.
I have a 1 to
They
2.
give you enough time to put your numbers together. for your estimate.
why can I never sign on the Wi-Fi here?
I think
Actually,
so.
Tuesday, I can't do it all.
Wednesday,
be
I'm
able
wide
to.
open.
Yeah, it's
It doesn't,
They
let
do.
me- yeah, they don't let me
I'm
in.
just saying it'd be Friday, you gotta.
it needs to be a guest one.
Yeah,
You know, I used to be able to sign on to Triton.
You should
with
go to Triton schools with your schools.
I don't know, I'm doing field day, there is a break, it's like, as long as it's. I don't know the times though, right?
So Tuesday didn't work.
Wednesday would be better, and I actually have to jump on an 11 o'clock call, so I'm gonna have to step out and just prepare for that so I can do it in my car. If you want to email me some
One, we're gonna do Wednesday,
Wednesday, I'm wide open.
Would me too. The 8th.
I'm available.
oh, I'm in May, just kidding, just kidding, I'm in the wrong month. What's the date on that?
The 5th,
I have other.
okay. So is this just,
Just a quick, I think it's like 30 minutes tops, right? That's why I'm taking.
I think it's really to get a sense of, does this make
Well, yeah,
sense?
you may have questions that you want to ask.
Yeah,
Why don't we, wanna just, when you send the information, you can. I don't
we'll
know.
ping some dates.
Yeah.
Are you here Wednesday?
I'm actually, yeah, I'm out Wednesday through the following Tuesday, but actually I can get on a Thursday or Friday fairly easily, beginning or end of day. Wednesday, I'm actually traveling, so that probably wouldn't happen, but,
Can we? Yeah, I have other things.
so we'll ping.
Yeah.
I'll look for that for you,
Let
and
me know
then
what
we'll
dates.
confirm a date.
work and
Thank you.
We'll figure it out.